Have you ever had someone who shares your home interrupt you to ask where something is? You know those moments when you have to stop what you're doing to help them find an item that somehow only you know where it is, or only you, for whatever reason, can find it? Or maybe you found yourself sneaking a new piece of decor in or rearranging something in private because you know that once others see it, they'll want to weigh in, or they have an opinion, or they might even disagree before your vision is even fully realized. Sound familiar? When you live with others, it means constantly navigating the spaces you share, and often there's one person who becomes the unofficial home controller or home lead. It's usually the person with the vision, the one in control of the aesthetics and the function of the spaces. But what happens when everyone else's needs and preferences are overlooked? What if the home, shared by so many, only truly reflects one person? In today's episode, I want to introduce you to and get you thinking about ways you can change the way you and everyone in your home relates to your shared spaces. Whether you live solo or with a family, this episode will help you get thinking about aligning your home with everyone's values, habits, and aesthetic preferences. So let's dive in and rethink the way we design our homes, not just for beauty, but for well-being and harmony. Design shapes the way you live. I'm Nico, an interior design expert focused on the connection between home and well-being. Using science, design, and professional expertise, I'll help you shape a space that elevates your mindset and enhances your well-being. Let's create space for better living, starting now. So typically there's one person that sort of mans the ship in how the home looks and functions. I mean, there's individuals within the home for sure that weigh in on certain personal areas, if it's, say, their bedroom, if they're a kid, or maybe it's a man cave. But typically each person sort of has one space that they kind of reign supreme. But usually there's this sort of overarching home controller, if you will, the home lead, the one that takes charge of where everything goes and what it all looks like. This home lead, this role, well, it happens for a lot of reasons. It can be that they simply have more opinions or they have better taste. So they become the lead out of default and reassurance that they'll make the right call. Whether it's them that feels more confident to do that or others that have more confidence in their call versus their own. Some people do just have a vision, right? They can articulate things better dimensionally. They have a level of detail, of interest. Maybe they just have an innate ability to create spaces, so they default to this home lead role. It could also be cultural or social roles that play out, if it's a more traditional family structure. Or it could be that it just makes the most sense with everyone's schedules. Or maybe it brings one person more joy and fulfillment over another. But in a lot of cases, there's a good explanation for one person being the home lead. But here's the thing. Even if there's only one person in the home that has this role, everyone is responding to their environment, their brains and their body, no matter what, whether they've had a say or not, are responding. And for a household to be designed with neuroaesthetics in mind, it must include each and every person that walks through each and every one of those rooms. So when I say neuroaesthetics, I just want to define it for you quickly. So it's the study of how our brains and bodies respond to our aesthetic experiences. And this is done through art, design, beauty, through sight, touch, smell, and life experiences. It combines principles from neuroscience, psychology, and aesthetics to really understand how sensory perception, emotion, and cognition interact when people engage with their environment and objects within it. It looks at brain mechanisms behind our aesthetic preferences and how they influence well-being and behavior. So if you're to create a home that only one person has a say in, then you're missing the chance to engage everyone in your story of home, in the benefits, and in the ways our homes should make us feel, and the ways our bodies and brains can respond positively to our environment. because we know that if we feel aligned with how our homes are designed, then we are happier, we're healthier, we can save time and money, and we can achieve goals and form better habits. There's so many benefits to designing a neuroaesthetic home. So if you're going to embark on this journey of getting everyone involved, there needs to be a meeting and ongoing meetings within the home where everyone sits down to work through the big picture, right? And the big picture is really made up of all the changes that might come or may need to come, and all of the little things too, like the day-to-day organization. Everything needs to be factored in because everyone has plans, how they want their spaces to change. Is it you need a new sofa? Or is it you need a bathroom renovation? How are you going to achieve that? What's the big picture? Because that's how, when you get everyone involved and they start weighing in, well, what would the bathroom function like if you were to use it? What's your frustrations with the bathroom now? Everybody, let's hear it. You make notes. It's a meeting. And then you have to observe how you move through your home on a day-to-day basis and areas of tension, either in your body as you move through, like all of a sudden you feel really frustrated when you open up a drawer. It's so often that these little nuances are overlooked. There's a saying, design is in the details. And it's those little details sometimes, if a drawer is organized for exactly how it's needed. That feeling that we often don't stop and recognize, how good it feels when you open up a drawer and you find that thing. And as you're opening up that drawer, it looks really good. So you have to stop and really start paying attention and get everyone in the house to do this. Make notes. Jot it down. You need to have a meeting and do some work. And it does need to go deep because some people may not be used to expressing themselves in their home. They may not know how to vocalize how they really would want their home to look if they could control it. So I have a fairly extensive worksheet that I've been working on in the last several months. And it really is to address this sort of meeting and to get everybody on board. So as soon as that's done, it'll be available and I will let you know. But this is really important because every single person within the home needs to have a say so that their home can impact them in all the good ways. So we have to start talking about what habits and goals we want to adopt, to change, to work towards. So when I say we have to go deep and I'm talking about goals, we also have to talk about dreams, who we see ourselves within the home, the meaning of home on a deeper level. And then we have to address some really practical ways to design the home to touch on these things, to make sure that they haven't been overlooked. You know, if you were to ask me, well, what does a neuro-designed home look like? And I would tell you, and this may sound obvious, every home should look different. And I say this because so often people get caught in the comparison game where they see a home or they see a style and they really want to adopt it. And sure, maybe there's elements of that style that really do resonate with them, but they shouldn't try to recreate it within their home because it's really not a cookie cutter thing. It needs to be personal and you need to do the work to understand each and every person, how they want their home to look and how they really need it to function and what their goals are. What are they trying to achieve? What's their dreams? Who do they want to be? Because all of those things play into what your home looks like. And now if all of our dreams and our goals and our aspirations and where we work and what our activities are, if they were all the same, then well, that makes sense for our homes to more or less look the same. Then it's just down to color preferences. But we're not the same. No one is. Different goals, different ambitions, different dreams, different hopes, different jobs, different routines, different age kids, all of it. So we can't just assume that our home should look like that room. It's a combination of how your home looks to you moving through your home and experiencing it. Because the experience of your home is very, very important. And you can experience your home with things like awe, when you're actually stopping and being intentional to look at something and get caught up in it. Really, really appreciate it and find the beauty in something within your home, or changing how you speak about your home to others. I talk about that in a course coming up, and I've talked about it in previous episodes, but how you talk, the language that you use around your home when you're talking to other people is really, really important. Even purging, getting rid of things and placing things with intention. So it's not just putting something down and walking away from it. It's being very intentional as to where that goes and why. It's about surrounding yourself with the things that you love, but also striking the balance between not having too much, because clutter doesn't do our brains any justice. It's about addressing what each room needs to be and taking care of mental health while creating tech-free spaces. Places you can get away from the demands of the world. It's about fostering creativity within the home as well, and budgeting and buying things that last versus impulse purchases and design decisions. Like, neurodesign is about a lifestyle of well-being. It's about always pushing the barriers of what our homes can do for us to improve our lives, and to really use our home as a tool in that. And I just went on a bit of a tangent there, but I think it's important to stress these things, and it's important for everyone to weigh in. One of the things I learned early in my career was how each person's input affected the design, what they need in terms of function and what they like or don't like. So I'd be involved in initial client meetings to establish the design direction. And this would involve lengthy conversations about wants and needs, as well as conceptual imagery that perhaps we pulled or the client had pulled. And there would be questions that we'd ask to prompt responses that would tell us how to best approach the design of the space. And it always amazed me how you would see the home lead in action. And to be totally honest, there were times when I wasn't sure if I was in a design meeting or a counseling session. And it always amazed me when it got a bit emotional, or when there was a difference of opinions, how it just emphasized the connection, the significance, the importance that we have to our home, and how important it is to be seen and heard in the process of creating a home. And in the meetings, I'd be able to kind of figure out why the person that was the home lead got that role. And the others would kind of get to weigh in on what they want and like. And it's amazing to me how often they'd kind of come out of their shell. Like, all of a sudden they'd have these big opinions on things. They'd have a chance to share an opinion that maybe they never really let out. And I don't think it was a case of like they were suppressing their emotions or anything like that, or it was too tough to think about. It really just came down to that they just never really took the time to think about it, or they never realized the significance, the impact that just being able to share what they want and need, and like I said, we would prompt questions to get everyone involved. And when you work with an interior designer and you're paying them as well, it often means you kind of have to roll up your sleeves and do some work. Because ultimately, if each and every person doesn't have a say and speak to the design, then the design brief or the direction is incomplete. So it was really important as the designer to make sure that you asked the right questions and you prompted good responses to get the information that you needed, so that you were really addressing everyone, and often it was like people that might not be asked on a day-to-day basis were all of a sudden like, well, we're paying for this service and we're going to see our physical space change based on the inputs that we've given and the direction, right? We've collectively brought the design to fruition. Right? This is a team effort. And I just love that moment when a person finds their voice and there's no shame in taking a front row in what's happening. And often the lead is really excited to see the involvement and the opinion, especially in husband and wife dynamics, where the wife has maybe taken the lead and now all of a sudden it's like, wow, where did these opinions come from? But it's very rare that they're bummed about it. Sometimes all of a sudden that you've got two strong opinions. And as the designer, you have to work through that, and you have to focus on what's best for the design collectively. but you bring your professional opinion as well, and you bring your experience. And so usually there's a very clear path through that, but it's very exciting to all of a sudden see everyone involved. And everybody usually feels great in that process. There's a lot of excitement. It's very optimistic. Usually the home lead has been struggling. So in my observation, when you get more than one person in the home that's suggesting things, that has an opinion, that's ready to help figure out how best the home functions, usually that's a really positive thing for the home lead. Often, what I've come to learn is that the home lead is the one that has to analyze where all the stuff goes and how everything is stored. And they have to make sure that they're within budget on things, yet make sure that they've done it in a way that everyone's happy with the outcome. So there's pressure to get it right. The home lead is usually struggling in this role, right? There's the fear of making a mistake, especially if they like the change, but no one else does. There's regret there. And at the beginning of this episode, I mentioned how you might be sneaking things in and setting things up before opinions come at you. Or maybe you're not even able to execute because of fear of making a mistake and getting it wrong. There's money on the line, there's time on the line, and there's opinions. Sometimes those opinions mean so much that it stops people from moving ahead, even if they really, really love something. They can talk themselves out of it. But that's another reason why it's important to get everyone in the house involved. Because if you can come to a collective agreement, it's just more motivating to make a change when you know that everyone agrees or that you've worked through the process and you've addressed everyone's needs and wants. And sometimes that process, let's be real, it can be a lengthy process. It might not be pretty. People argue all the time about how their home should be set up and how it should look. There's different aesthetic preferences. But I think if you really get down to the core of what makes your home happy, then you can address these things. Make some concessions if you need to, but understand that you're all working towards a common goal, and that's to just ultimately love your home and for it to be designed in a way that promotes your lifestyle, your well-being, your health, your happiness. You want to live optimally in your home, and everyone does. So remember that. When a home hasn't really been thought through for everyone, and when everyone hasn't had a chance to come together and talk about how they want the home to function and be and look, then you can imagine, like I know families where there's one person in the family who is really, really organized, like more so than anybody. Like very, very, very organized. Just the way they function, how they think is just very linear. And therefore, they respond really, really well when their space is very organized, where they don't lose things, when they know where things are at all times. No one touches their stuff. Like that's just who they are. I know families like this. And I also know that in these families, not everyone in the household is like that. So this person, I've witnessed it so many times when I was over at their house. They're moving through their home and they're frustrated. They're angry at people. Like, you touched this of my stuff. Why would you do that? Well, I told you before, leave my stuff alone. Where's this? Where's that? Who moved this? Who moved that? And I can tell that they are just so desperately wanting order in what they feel is chaos. So I share that with you because I want you to think about that. Maybe that's you in your house. Maybe you're somebody who really, really loves everything to be in its place. And you don't want to ever have to look for stuff, or you don't ever want it to feel different than it did the day before. Or maybe you're somebody who likes it to be this way, but no one else does. It's just really important to recognize these types of things. You know, just think about it and how you're setting your room or your home up. And that's why when I say to have a meeting where everybody comes together and everyone gets to just toss in their ideas, toss in what they'd like to see, toss in how they'd like to live, All of these things, it's just really crucial conversations so that everyone can coexist in the spaces together and that everybody has felt seen and heard in this. Working through things, ask questions like, well, what's important to you? How do you see yourself in your home? What do you want to accomplish? What habits are you trying to form or break? What areas do you need to be distraction free? Where do you see yourself relaxing? And how might that be set up so that you can enjoy it right away? The interesting thing is we are so affected by the spaces we live. They impact us. They leave an impression on us. Yet people don't think to do this, right? We coexist with people, whether they're roommates or friends or partners, young kids, young adults, and everyone is affected. Even if it's just one person making the call, everyone is affected. Whether you're a teenager who's heading straight to the bedroom where they seem to hide out, or it's a husband who's heading straight to their man cave. Why do they head straight to these spaces? Why is it that people gravitate towards one specific room? In my experience, it's because it's the room where they feel they've had a say. It's the room where they like to wind down and relax. And typically it's because that's the room where the home lead has taken a step back in terms of how it looks. Maybe the home lead is like, man, that room is ugly. But if we dig deep here and we talk about what the need is, it comes down to a space where they feel it's their domain. They're in control to some degree of what they do in there and what it looks like. And if you sat them down in this meeting and you asked, what is it about that room that you love? Do you love how it's set up? Do you love the colors? What activities do you do most in this room? Do you like the lighting? How do you think this room supports the activities that you do? What would you change if you were to make this room better? It's asking the questions about the space that the person feels the most comfortable in. That will give insight into the conversation. Remember, your home can be used as a tool for your health and your well-being. When each person feels aligned with the goals, they feel seen and heard. The home functions for each person. It represents each individual. And if this is done, then the household thrives. If everyone has had a chance to weigh in, then it can transform not just your home, but your life. Thank you for listening. Thanks so much for listening today. If you found this episode helpful, the best way to support the show is to follow along and share it with someone who'd love it too. And if you'd like to go a step further, you can become one of our Better Living backers. It's a small monthly contribution that helps keep the show going. And as a thank you, I'll send you a personal note along with a 15% discount for the Create Space course when it launches. You can find the support the show link right in the show notes. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for creating space with me.